I didn't have that sort of bedrock of qualifications or real experience. Designing a solution, that's my favorite. It's like, right, the client's got this issue. How are we going to make this issue go away?
Hey everyone, I'm Nelya from Nelly Talks. Welcome to my podcast, Nelly Talks, a careers-focused show for those who are considering careers in tech industry or maybe looking for a change of direction in this space. We will be interviewing different speakers in this field to understand their journeys, the hurdles they face, how they overcame those, and any tips and hints that they would like to share on the way. Hello, so today we have Jordan Legg with us. Jordan, hi, welcome to Nelly Talks podcast.
Hello, how's it going?
Great to have you here. Jordan, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So my name's Jordan Legg. I'm a co-founder and chief AI officer for Takara.AI. I've got a long sort of 5-6 year history building AI machine learning applications. Previously worked as the director of intelligence of my last business, where we were generating huge amounts of B2B sales and marketing leads. And I built a massive machine learning model in NLP and sentiment analysis to do that across loads of LinkedIn data. And then when we built Takara, I want to take everything that I learned and help other people and other businesses go on that journey, because that's something that I didn't have in my business, right? Which I think a lot of people are going through that now. What is AI? What's going on? How do I use it? How do I make the best out of it? So that's a bit of info about me. I look after the application development teams here, the AI development team, and a lot of the sort of open source research stuff as well. I'm also a community researcher for Cohere for AI. They're a great group of people. Please join us. So that's about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jordan, I guess I've obviously checked you out on LinkedIn. I'm sure many people in our audience will. And you came into tech at quite an early age. Did you always know that you want to get into tech? AI has been around for a while. Perhaps things like generative AI are newer things, like going for a bit more of a hype thanks to media, etc. But did you always know this was going to be a path for you? How did you get into world of tech, and then specifically, how do you get in the world of AI?
Yeah, it's a great question, because if you go back to when I was 18, I was working on planes and I was DJing up and down the country. So the career difference was quite big. But I was always into computers, and I taught myself how to code when I was 14, building websites and stuff. And then when I was about 19, I spent the sort of year building an algorithm to do a lot of the LinkedIn sentiment analysis stuff, because my father was a sales director at this large tech firm, and he asked me, "Hey Jordan, you're pretty good with computers. Could you figure out how to do this?" And I was like, "I'll give it a go." And then that giving it a go ended up as a 6 year business, multi-million-pound valuation. So that was sort of like, it wasn't like a single thing that happened. It was like a series of different events that led up to that. And then here we are with Takara, which is another sort of small step, which I assume again will be another many few steps, helping people and their businesses. And also, I'm learning a great deal as well in AI and ML space. Now we're talking about generative AI. Generative AI has been around probably for like 10 years, but since the Transformer came out in 2017, now it's actually pretty good. So it's just really exciting to be where I'm at right now. But my path to this was very unconventional. And yeah, I didn't go to uni, didn't do anything like that. My A levels are a bit rubbish. So there's really no excuse.
And how did you find that? I mean, obviously, we know what education system is like at the moment. I've got kind of my son just about to start GCSEs, and I'm as a recruiter, I'm like just enjoy yourself, choose something that you love doing, because it doesn't always translate into career, and also there'll be so many new jobs in the future that like school probably can't even fully prepare you for now. Even as a recruiter, I'm like, university is kind of not for everyone. But did you find that not going for like a traditional path into tech, was that a hurdle was it a hurdle for you before, when you were like kind of thinking of entering this field? Does that kind of hold you back in any way now?
Yeah, I think in some ways it was good, because it allows you to be a lot more agile, because you can just go on and do stuff. But in the same way, you don't have really a bedrock of information to rely on from being taught that. So you sort of just kind of like you feel like you're winging it for like 5 years. You never really feel like you're qualified. And because you don't have any qualifications, and I was young at the same time. So, imagine me, I'm 20, I don't have any degrees, no qualifications, no nothing. And I'm trying to get you, an enterprise, to buy a solution from me that I say is going to like radically change the way that, your sales and marketing function is going to work. So it's that sort of stuff really held me back because I didn't have that sort of bedrock of qualifications or real experience. And of course, I was running the business as well, so I didn't really know what I was doing there. Yeah, so I'd say the education system didn't work for me because I learn in a very specific way, and that's totally fine because most everyone else seems to be okay with it. But I guess the biggest drawback is 10, 12-hour days working harder than everybody else trying to catch up and trying to do stuff as fast as possible.
Yeah, so I guess there must have been a lot of learning from what you're saying on the business side, just
Yeah,
also on like the tech side as well.
yeah,
But perhaps also very relevant learning, in line with what you're actually doing. Whereas as we know, kind of the way the degrees are structured, they give people great foundation, but they are generalist.
yeah,
So when I recruit early talent, I find like you get such a huge volume of applications, but a lot of people who don't really know the area they want to go into. And it almost like I think it's great as a foundation, but then you kind of you do go into a very specific career path, like graduate scheme or junior engineering, whatever the path is. So that's really great to hear. And how did you go about acquiring this knowledge? Was it kind of on the fly as you're doing the work and you're kind of picking stuff up? And if so, which sources did you use? Whether that kind of networking, community, mentorship element, or are you someone who just goes and does research, uses the kind of various databases? What worked for you? How do you like navigate for the world of information that's out there now, especially on AI?
yeah. Well, I mean, today it's a lot easier because you've got things like Claude and ChatGPT that can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, right? And even if you give it research papers and all that sort of stuff, it can summarize them for you and pick out the cool elements, and it's a big help, big help. But before big LLMs, it's sort of like Googling, YouTube videos, all the very similar things that you do if you wanted to do anything like how do I, repair my washing machine or how do I fix my car or something. It's very much the same. And it's like, okay, how do I generate value out of data? Okay, let me Google around this. Okay, I can do this. I can build this NLP model, and then I need to make some splits, validation test splits. And okay, great. I can then train it. How do I train it? What format should I put the data set in? I don't know. Where should I host it? I don't know. So it's just a series of I don't knows, and then just finding out the answers and then storing it up here. That's basically it, which is like an incredibly tiresome process, but it's the only way that I can really learn, and that's just the way that it is. Yeah, and it's the same today.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love it how you just say like you just build an NLP model by watching stuff. Like I think that clearly you've got a very technical mindset because I know people who like 10 years into their tech career and probably could not do that sometimes without like a team, etc. And I agree with you. I think I use like Chat GPT, Gemini, other kind of other tools to almost like navigate me through the wealth of information. Like I remember like maybe 7 years ago, I'd have to go to like events like, I don't know, for computer vision, for example, like CVPR. And you literally need to go to like, there'll be this boards where PhD researchers would talk about their papers. And you'd have to go look before the paper was actually released and published outside of event. And that would take another like 6, 12 months. So before the information came out, it'd be such a long cycle. And then of course the paper itself is not easily accessible to a layperson. It's not written
No,
in a way. So you like having this like AI summarizing it, picking up the key insight is so amazing. Even like for someone who's like a recruiter, I'm not a tech person, but just to learn about it. And I think it makes this information more accessible. So it's not closed off in like a, big research communities or certain research school centers where only like PhD folks kind of
yeah,
access it.
I agree.
So that's been really awesome to see. I know you wear a couple of hats. You look after various sort of areas of the business.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy about your role the most at the moment?
Oh, probably designing a solution. That's my favorite. It's like, right, the client's got this issue. How are we going to make this issue go away? Like, so model selection, model design, architecture. That is probably my favorite piece because it's the biggest sort of like problem solving piece where you go out and you try and go, okay, these are the KPIs for the client. They need like 8% confidence on these documents or something, or they need this thing to go away, and we need a human in the loop feature to have a review on it. But to get it as high as possible, maybe we should use this model, like a unit model, or maybe we should use Deta, or maybe we should use an LLM, or maybe we should use just standard NLP or sentiment analysis or something like that. So that's probably my favorite part, is just ripping apart problems and trying to find a design solution for it.
Your eyes have literally lit up when you started talking about solutions. Like
Oh, it's so
you love
fun.
it, and I think this is probably something that connects a lot of people in tech. They love complex problems, right? And when you found a role where you can do that, you can earn a living at it. It's a kind of win-win. That's awesome. And are there any kind of downsides to your current role, whether it's kind of, from a technical perspective or just the whole kind of running your own business, kind of the logistics of being not just looking after your role, but potentially looking after teams, customers, and anything else that, falls on your laps when you're running your own business?
I'm pretty busy right now. Like, I'm working a lot of hours right now, which I wish I didn't have to do, but I just have to do it. And so you have to just kind of sacrifice other things sometimes that I like doing. That's probably the biggest downside. Everything else is pretty good. Love talking to clients, love building teams, love making friends, love writing code. That's what I like to do. But yeah, the long hours at the moment, like, yeah, it's I'm trying not to get burned out. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that was my next question, like how do you balance? Because being like a founder of the business, running your business, there is a lot of glamour attached to it, and quite often people don't talk about the downside because you are basically doing a couple of people's work just as of one person, and very few people who can do that. What do you think for someone who potentially considering, start up on their own? They have amazing idea. They're thinking, perhaps I'm doing something else, or maybe, I don't know, I'm working for corporate for someone else and considering that move. How do you try and achieve balance? What kind of things you do and prioritize not to get burnt out and to
Mm.
still kind of enjoy the journey?
Yes, I think, what worked well with me, my last business at the moment, Takara's not been going that long. So it's just like we're all try harding and working as much as possible to get
Yeah.
to a place where we can then sort of wind it back. But in my last business, where I got it to is I got it to more of a 9 to 5 model where, once it hit 5 o'clock, that was it. I'm not touching it anymore. And I'm going to do literally anything else, because otherwise, your whole life just revolves around work, and there's no sort of like, there's no beginning and end to it. So your brain just doesn't understand, especially if you're working in one room, like you sleep, you work, you do all this stuff in one room. It's like, it just doesn't work. Your brain just gets burned out. There's no end to it. So that's where I want to get to with Takara. I'm hoping I can get to that in probably like 3 or 4 months. So let's hope I last that long.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you will. You can see the sparkle is still there, and that's a thing. I think it's challenging, when you really enjoy what you do.
Mm,
Sometimes work doesn't feel like work, but of course, like everything else that you enjoy in life. I know if you're in fitness, pets, kids,
yeah,
other friends, eating out, right? It's so easy just to just work for your lunch and just eat anything.
exactly.
Yeah, I think I've started my own business, Nelly Works, just over a year ago, and I got to the point where I've just hired my first full-time person.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. I'm starting to bring some interns on board. When you go through the stage where you're like, I think I can hand this over. I think this is in like a sane state where it actually makes sense to me. You've got the customers, but yeah, like fully relate. It's just a bit of like a hard graft before you get to that. But yeah, I am hoping for that 9 to 5 as well soon when all these people kind of get embedded and
Yeah,
started. Awesome. And as you've mentioned, as I've mentioned, AI has been here for a while, but kind of 2023 has been massive around the attention the generative AI got. Like you can say, you can call it hype, you can call it rise, whatever terminology you want to use. I don't think it's hype because I think we know it's here to stay. Um, has generative AI specifically more recently, or that kind of increase in publicity, impacted your role or your business? Any other developments in your field outside of that really excite you and you think will be, defining for the area that you work in? Because, from recruitment perspective, every company now tries to bring
of
LLM
course.
engineers, ML engineers, Gen AI prompt engineers, some of the jobs that like did not exist,
Right,
a couple of
right.
years ago. So it'd be interesting to see how have you been impacted from your personal side in terms of the tools that you've seen come through, but also from the business side, given there is much more hype around this now?
I'd say there's two aspects to it. The barrier to entry for working with machine learning and AI in general has got so much better. Companies like Hugging Face have made amazing Python libraries that make it super easy to build, like image generation pipelines, LLM pipelines, all of this stuff. It's really, really good now. Whereas before, you'd have to write probably 50 lines of like TensorFlow or PyTorch code just to make it happen. Now it's probably like 25 maximum, and it's really nice. It looks good and it's repeatable. That's what you like. So that's probably the bet at the moment. That's what really excites me, is lowering that barrier to entry. People to work with this stuff, because that's what we need. That's what you need as well, right? If you're recruiting people for these roles, if you can make it easier for people to do those roles, then you can recruit people faster, and it's everyone's life is just a lot easier. The other things I think are going to be huge for our industries is multimodality and like multilinguality. If we can get both of those like to a really high standard, all sorts of things open up, right? With multilinguality, you've basically democratized AI to everyone on Earth, regardless of language. Um, and that means that people that want to sell products in China can have perfect translations into English. People that want to sell things in Zimbabwe to worldwide audiences, they totally can. And if you want to do customer service across like 9,600 languages, wicked. That's like super powerful. And it's so inherently human. And then multimodality is like, you know, why are we just talking about just text with LLMs, right? And text and just generating images, and maybe you share an image sometimes. But once you give all this information to the LLM, right, which is your reasoning engine, I guess, once it can see and hear and experience the world around us, your training data is effectively infinite, because you can train it on everything. And if you think you can train it on everything, then the model quality could technically become infinitely good. And that excites me so much, because the models are already so good, and the fact that we're only really just scraping the internet and just plugging that into the model, and they're that good so far. Imagine what happens when it starts training off like the physics of our world around us, and our world looks and sounds, and the temperature and the humidity and all these things, right? So that's, for me, that's like my, in 5 years, is going to be super interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, awesome. I think like improving access is
Yeah,
huge, if the technology and kind of the need for talent also drives it,
yeah,
the companies will follow. Because ultimately in this field, it's there's so much innovation that happens. It's not necessarily someone who went to the best uni or work for X company that can pick this up. I think you say if you have people who love problem solving
yeah,
and have tech mindset, like they have that curiosity mindset, I think we will see more inclusivity, more hiring in this way. That will be just something the industry will need to do, hopefully.
yeah,
Not like a, cringy logos and like videos on the websites, but generally like driven by what the sector needs. So I really hope the diversity of talent will be like just a natural side product of us actually needing to look at new skill sets and accelerate how the skill sets are trained. Because there will a lot of companies with current tech teams workforce just don't have some of those skills. It's like some engineers have very narrow, like, I don't know, one specific OO language that they've been taught in uni, and that's what they use. And yes, they are subject matter experts in that, but that's not necessarily how, like, Gen AI works, and that's not necessarily how we scale. I'm really excited about it as well. Just as a recruiter, it's been like I've been watching this for many years happening. Now it just kind of going through hypergrowth, and all companies like, okay, how are we going to adjust our hiring and our tech stacks? And I think we're in the reactive stage. Hopefully, we'll be like in proactive planning stage now. That kind of the Gen AI kind of settling down a little. We kind of know what to
hmm
expect. And from your kind of perspective, if you focus on the topic of like diversity and inclusion, it is kind of a thing in the tech industry. Do you feel like there is more representation in the tech sector now than perhaps when you were starting out, in terms of whether it's a local scene here, kind of in Milton Keynes, or generally kind of across UK, internationally, what you're saying? Do you think like there is more diverse talent in this field now?
I'd say yes. I think, well, it always can be better. I think from a global standpoint, it's way, way better. From working in Takara.AI on their community team, there's like 3,500 people from around the world. There's like 96 different countries in there. It's about as diverse as you can really get. I'll say like most of the machine learning and AI community is like guys. I'll say that much. That's just a given. So it can always be better. I just don't know how we solve that. That's not really a question that I can really answer. And of course, when we're trying to hire, we try and hire the best people for the job, and do what we can.
Yeah, I love that because so often I come into company like we need to hire more X or Y. I'm like, we should just have like inclusive, open process that encourages everyone to apply without barriers, and then focus on whoever's best qualified. And like it's about actually giving access to everyone. Like the whole equity and equality versus saying, oh, I need to have X type of person at a final interview.
Yeah,
Like the forced D&I, because I think when you start speaking to like women in tech, any underrepresented groups, they don't want to be like just chosen because they're part of the
of
stack. They
course.
want to be
Who
chosen
would
because
want that?
they're good.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't want to have that imposter syndrome that I know you spoke about
yeah.
when you like gone into tag. You think like,
Mm.
am I just here for that reason? So again, like I think the whole like open sourcing of tools of data will really help improve access, so more people can actually play around with tag, get the skills, and actually enter this workforce. But that's the idea. Let's see how we do it. Let's hope this happens in our lifetime because it's not always going to happen, in a year or two. Awesome. And if you kind of look at the local tech scene in Milton Keynes, I know I've seen your name pop up, the company's name pop up at various like STEM events, etc. What do you think about like the tech scene in Milton Keynes? Kind of, do you see any opportunities, anything that kind of particularly projects that excite you?
To be fair, Milton Keynes is great. Love Milton Keynes, and the tech scene is probably the best in the Midlands, like bar none. You got Amy down the road from MKU. They're brilliant. You've got Bletchley Park as well, which is, I think they should make that like a startup incubator for AI. To be fair, because it's the birthplace of intelligent computing. So I love Milton Keynes. Got a real love for it. It's a lot better than other places. Like I live closer to like Northampton, so Northampton has no tech scene. We are the tech scene. Northampton is terrible.
Yeah, I remember looking because I one of my clients is Google Cloud, GCP, like a consultancy, and we were looking at like a Google Cloud developer meetups. And when I found one like locally, I was like, "Oh my gosh, Milton Keynes has one! I've
Yeah,
been living here for so many years. I have never known this." And then I think it's amazing to see like the tech companies give back to community. Us not being seen, I guess, like the whole like Northampton, Milton Keynes as a just overflow town, commuter town from London, actually attracting talent to here and building businesses here is exciting. So when I thought of hiring, it's like I have to hire people from here because ultimately I think there will be loads of more companies. And
yeah,
yeah, like you can say we are birthplace of AI here, with Alan Turing's Institute. I mean, I think there are some other universities might disagree, kind of in Manchester, etc. But again, why not have something like EF or YC kick it off here? Because it's got great facilities, great history, and it's still close to like all your central London hubs,
of
etc. So
course.
yeah, let's see. I'm a big fan of Milton Keynes, and obviously it would help certainly for us not having to trek it to London every time we want to meet a
Yeah.
tech
Yeah,
company.
I know, because we're the same. It's like, oh, you want to go see clients and you want to go do meetups and you want to meet like everybody else that's in the know. You got to go to London. That's basically it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so it's great to see Microsoft AI meetup in Bletchley Park,
That's right.
which I
Yep.
go to, just even actually to educate, like, it's great that it's kind of supported by Milton Keynes College. Yeah, this did not exist not that long ago. So hopefully it'll go from strength to strength. It's been great. You've shared so many insights. To wrap us up, Jordan, I'm just keen to hear from you. Kind of what advice would you give to your younger self, like starting up in this world of tech and AI specifically, and also advice that perhaps people in our audience can use when they're considering either entering AI field or perhaps kicking off their own business because they've got this amazing idea, What tips and hints have you picked up on the way that's been really helpful?
I would say one thing that really hurt me was like relying too much on frameworks, like coding frameworks and stuff like that. Learning the actual base code and how to do stuff like that is so much better because you can basically code around any problem that you have. Um, now there's a little bit of bloatware in AI now. It's very easy to go down. I'm going to use Haystack and I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this. And then you never understand like the behind the scenes of how the model gets loaded, how checkpoints are made, how it's quantized, all this stuff. And then when you get a problem, you can't fix it because you just don't understand it. So and that hurt me a little bit in the back because it was easier and it was quicker to stand things up. But then once I wanted to customize it past that or do something different or there was an issue, it really really hurt me. So the advice I give to myself and anyone else is like learn it the right way, understand the basics, and then you can go from there. And once you have that really great knowledge, you can rely on frameworks because it doesn't matter. It's like, okay, I'm going to use this to save time in this area, or I'll use one LLM to train another one, or I'll distill this one down. And your life is just a lot easier. And if it's easier, then it takes less time. And if it's less time, then you can do a 9 to 5 and not a 9 to 9.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great tip. I think it's really nice to learn from other people's kind of lessons versus, do it the hard way, which I think a lot of people in tech have to do. Like, how do you make yourself more efficient and actually do the jobs you find most enjoyable versus, just kind of certain tasks we have to do because we have to pick things up. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your journey.
No, thanks for having
I
me.
can't wait and see you do great things and get to that 9 to 5 place that
Yes.
I'm sure we all want to get to. And yeah, like all the best. And I'm sure we'll see each other soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to all our lovely listeners for sticking with us. I hope you found this useful. And please do share, like, etc. Check out our next episode that comes out in 2 weeks' time.